Hello, ladies and gentlemen, men and brethren. Today we're going to be working on our little S10 project, our little 4.3, and we're going to be doing some plastigaging. We're probably not going to use this power plant, but it doesn't hurt to know what the clearances are and how it looks. So let's go ahead and set up and we'll do the main bearing. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Plastigage, it comes in little 1-foot packages like this, and inside the package is something that looks about like fishing line, and that is like a finely calibrated piece of plastic, and you cut it as wide as your bearing is, and then you lay it on the journal. After the journal has been wiped clean. Now you might remember from the previous episode that this engine, the bearings are pretty worn on it. I mean, not terrible. There's no dirt embedding, but down here, I mean, we're through the babbitt and into some of the brass. So, I mean, these bearings are pretty worn, but we're going to see how much clearance we've got. So we're going to put the bearing cap back the way that it goes.
I saw Uncle Jerry.
Did you?
He was going down the road.
In the Buick? Cool. So we're going to put the main cap bearing, or the main bearing cap back on there. We've got her pointed the right direction. Be right back. Okay, so we've got the cap back on it. Elijah's running the studs in, or running the bolts down. Now these torque to 80 pounds in 3 steps, or something like that. The torque specs changed on these 4.3s over the years. So we're just going to use the one that I can remember. So we're going to do them to 40 pounds first.
Can I torque them?
No, son, you can't pull torque on that.
Got it.
Okay, do the other one. Now, if we were doing this for real, we'd torque all of these to 40, and then we would go have a couple cups of coffee, and we'd come back and we'd torque them to 60. Then we'd go have some more coffee, and we'd torque them to 80. And we'd have some more coffee and then go pee, because we've had so much coffee. And then we would check them and make sure that they stayed at 80, because the bolts will stretch a little bit with time. And Daddy gonna run them up to 60. And now Daddy gonna run them up to 80. Okay, that's good. Now we're going to let it sit for just a second, and then we're going to take her back loose. So now we're going to take our cap back off of there. Now it's real important not to rotate the crankshaft during any part of this.
That's kind of made a worm.
Yeah, it made a little worm.
I wonder how many. Can I measure it?
Whoop, whack the camera. So you can see we've got a little squished out mark right there. That's where the Plastigage was. No, that's millimeters. We don't need millimeters, we need American. So we're going to lay our little rule up next to the mark, and we're right at, I'd call that right at 3/1000 of an inch. It might be just It might be 2/1000. It's sure not 15 10/1000, and it's sure not 1 1,000th. So we've got right at 2/1000 of an inch. Yeah, that's not 3/1000. That's right at 2/1000 of an inch.
That's pretty good.
A little loose. So our main bearing spec, this is the number 2 main bearing. So on number 2 and 3, you had 11 10/1000 to 23 10/1000 is the range. So that's really, I would have really liked that to have been about 15 10/1000 building it. Now, will this thing run? Yes. Will the rods rattle? Probably not. Now, if we were going to reuse this motor, I would probably just go get a set of rings or a set of rods and bearings, and I'd stick new rod and main bearings in here. I mean, we're this far, why wouldn't you? It's $35, $50 for a set of rods and main bearings for one of these. So let's take a gander at the rod bearing here. What kind of shirt are you wearing there anyway?
Orange sweatshirt.
Oh. Well, what's it say on it? The Camber Classic?
Yeah.
Yep, that was in. Hey, you're not on your nut square.
Oh.
Get on that nut square.
Trying to.
Quit fighting me. Turn loose. There you go. I hold it square on the nut. There you go. Whoop. Here. We got a malfunction here, don't we? Well, you got a 5/8 on there. No wonder it won't work. Where's the 9/16?
I torque wasn't done.
Well, Daddy will get it.
Why?
Because
Why?
I said why. And there's 25. These are actually supposed to be 25 plus 70 degrees, but we're just going to use the old torque spec, which is 45. There's 45. 45. 45.
45, 45, 45.
45.
Again.
Okay, take the nuts off.
Off this one. Off this one.
Yep. So let's take our.
That's millimeters.
No, that says 1 to 3 inches. 3/1000. Doop-a-doop-a-doo.
I think that's about.
Looks like about 1,000th and a half.
Yeah.
15 10/1000. It's certainly not 2,000.
Yes.
And it's not 1,000, so it's about 15 10/1000.
Do we need to get the micrometers out?
Well, no, because I don't want to take the rods plumb out. But that is the correct way to do it, is to mic the journal and then mic the inside of the rod bearing with the caps torqued onto the bolts. Yep, scrape that off with your thumbnail. So we're about to wrap this end of it up. So we had, what did we say, 15 10/1000 on that, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
So the rod clearance, the factory spec rod clearance on that is supposed to be between 13 and 35 10/1000s, and we had 15 10/1000s. So as Elijah's, no, don't touch that metal to the journal. Just squirt it on there. There you go. So as Elijah's oiling that, if you'll remember, the babbitt is gone off of this rod right there. That's a lot of wear in that bearing, but we're still within specification on our clearance. Now, when you do this for real, you are supposed to wipe off all traces of motor oil and pre-lube and everything off of your journal and bearing, because that does take up space, as silly as that sounds. And, you know, if you're going to build something that's going to turn 18,000 RPM and make enough horsepower and torque to pull a stump out with, then you probably should be miking it and gauging everything. 45 pounds. You should be miking and gauging everything with a much more precise measurement. But if you've got something that you just pulled out of the junkyard and you just want a quick check and see about where about where everything's at, this is an awful good, cheap, and easy way to do it. And you know, my dad built motors for years, and this is what he did to check bearing clearance. He just plastigaged them, and a lot of old shade tree mechanics, this was as close as it ever got to precision. And those old motors held up for a good long time. So, hope y'all got something out of this. If you got any questions, ask them down in the comments. In the meanwhile,
Y'all drive safe and watch for deer.
oh, at least smile, son. You look like somebody just ran over your favorite rooster.
Or a hen.
Or a hen. All right, y'all drive safe, watch for deer.